You're reading labels, you're choosing better food and taking supplements, and yet your gut still feels unpredictable. Well, what if it's not one big mistake, but small daily habits you don't even question? Let's walk through 5 overlooked habits that quietly shape your gut microbiome even if you eat clean. If you're watching this, you probably care about your health. You read labels, you avoid the obvious junk, you make every effort to eat clean, and yet your digestion still feels unpredictable. Well, recently I was speaking with a new patient who has been struggling with ongoing gut issues. She was doing almost everything right. Whole foods, good ingredients, minimal processed foods, but there was one small daily pattern that she didn't connect to her symptoms. It was a glass of champagne most evenings. Nothing extreme, nothing reckless, but it was consistent. And when we zoomed out, it became clear it wasn't one big mistake causing her overall symptoms. It was small repeated patterns quietly shaping the environment of her gut. Now, that conversation is what led to this video, because your gut health isn't just about eating clean. It's about rhythm. It's about the quality of the food you eat. It's about the environment that you create in your gut. So let's walk through 5 daily habits I see patients repeat, and even when they're health conscious, I see them still doing this, and these are going to be things that are quietly influencing their microbiome. Let's see if you're doing these as well. Maybe I should have put this first one last because I don't want some of you to get stuck on this is the topic of the video or what the main focus of this video is. It's not the case. But number 1 here is going to be regular alcohol, and that's even if it's in moderation. And understand that I'm not interested in having a moral conversation with you. This is all about your biology. This is just about how your body's functioning. Alcohol does alter the gut environment. And even moderate intake has been shown to increase the permeability of your gut. So if you think just in regards to what is often termed leaky gut, it can push you more in that direction. It's going to shift the diversity of the microbiota in your gut, and it does reduce the integrity of the mucosa, that main protective barrier there. The gut lining is, remember, designed to be permeable, but it's designed to be permeable in a protective way. And alcohol changes that barrier function. It manipulates that gatekeeper effect in the gut. And it doesn't mean you can never have a drink of alcohol, but it does mean that if there's consistent exposure, even in small amounts, that this can create cumulative shifts in the overall microbial ecosystem. So frequency does matter more than most people realize. Next is going to be sleep disruption. Not just a lack of sleep, but actually disrupting your sleep rhythm. Your microbiome follows a normal circadian rhythm. Your microbiome loves consistency of input. And as a result, they respond to light exposure, hormonal fluctuations, cortisol patterns as those change throughout the day, when you eat. These are all consistent daily and monthly cues that tell your microbiome whether things are good and stable or whether there's instability around. So for example, late nights, blue light, scrolling in bed, inconsistent schedules, these are going to shift your cortisol regulation, and that has been shown time and again to alter the profile of the bacteria in your gut. You may see that as alterations in your gut motility. You may experience it as fatigue, but it's not just fatigue. It's telling you that there is a rhythm disruption, and when the rhythm is disrupted, the microbial balance often follows. What's the quality of the protein choices that you're making? Well, the gut lining, it rebuilds daily. You have an entire new gut lining every 3 to 7 days. And for that to take place, it has to rebuild in part with amino acids, things like glutamine, glycine, proline. These are very important structural proteins that give your body the ability, your gut the ability to repair itself and regenerate. But protein quality is not just a conversation about more grams of protein. It's about what's the biological value, what's the nutrient density. That's what matters. And what your protein eats, well, that matters too. These are going to be affecting things like the fatty acid composition. How dense are the micronutrients and the therapeutic compounds that are available in that food source? And what's the inflammatory signaling that's coming from that food source? The inputs, the feed, the way the animals are raised, how the protein that you're consuming is raised, all of those ultimately matter to your gut because it dictates whether or not you're getting the right constituents in to actually move gut healing forward. If protein's raised in stressed environments, if it's fed unnatural diets or diets that are heavily processed in some way that don't look like what that animal would consume out in the wild or out in open pasture, ultimately that's going to create a change in the nutritional profile. And your gut lining is built based on what you're supplying to it. So if you're making protein choices and the sourcing for those protein choices is not transparent, guys, remember, transparency is not the same thing as looking at a label or reading marketing terms. We're talking physiology here. We're not talking about just what shows up on a label. So be diligent about what type of quality of protein you're deciding to consume. Just like you need to rest every day and go to sleep to recover, well, we also need to let the gut rest as well. And this is where constant snacking can start to work against you. Your digestive system has built-in rest cycles. So think between meals, you optimize something called the migratory motor complex. This is the natural flushing mechanism that is built into how the gut functions. It clears out residue debris. It helps regulate bacterial balance in the small intestine, but it only activates during fasting windows. And if you're snacking from morning to night, if you have a habit of grazing continuously, that reset never fully occurs. And sometimes gut repair isn't simply about just adding in the next thing that's going to give you an outcome that you're looking for. Sometimes it's just simply about allowing space or rest for the system to do what it needs to be able to do. The last one that I'm going to share with you, and maybe the most obscure, is going to be highly processed health foods, simply because they fall under the heading of health foods. And this one can surprise a lot of people, but think about things like protein bars or fortified cereals, some of your high fiber snacks, right? We talked about fiber maxing in other videos and why that's probably not an ideal strategy for most people. Artificial sweeteners, maybe being artificially sweetened beverages, maybe being another example here. These things are all marketed in a very health forward manner, but when you start to look at isolated fibers or some of these toxic emulsifiers or these ultra refined ingredients, these can alter the microbial activity. And these ingredients aren't inherently catastrophic, meaning that they don't immediately present as acutely toxic. But remember, your microbiome evolved eating whole foods, not specific scientific formulations, if you will. So it doesn't mean that all supplemental foods that you might consume are bad. I don't agree with that statement. I think that there are some supplemental foods that, as long as they follow a whole foods general theme, that you can derive benefit from them. But understand that there is a difference between that and many of these health focused or highly processed health foods that you see out in the marketplace that just don't deliver on what their labels actually claim. None of what I'm sharing with you is about perfection. It's all about awareness. Your gut reflects what you eat, how often you eat, when you sleep, what your protein was fed, what your food was built from. You can eat clean and still miss the overall bigger picture. And don't worry, guys, you're not alone if you're listening to this. This is extremely common. Remember, I gave you an example out of the gate of a new patient that was falling into this same scenario. But understand that your gut health, it's cumulative. It's based on rhythm, it's based on quality of what you expose it to, and it's based on the environment that you create for it. And when you shift even one of these 5 patterns that I've shared with you here, your digestion is often going to respond to that. And if protein quality is one of the easiest upgrades you can make, well, start there. Just make a better choice for protein, because your gut lining, remember, it is going to be rebuilt every 3 to 7 days. So you have an opportunity to make impact extremely fast based on that. For many people, one of the biggest missing pieces is protein. And protein is both a quality and a quantity conversation. So if you're not sure whether you're actually eating enough protein to rebuild and repair your gut lining, well, watch this next. 5 signs you aren't eating enough protein and how to fix it with real food. Because sometimes the gut isn't reacting, it's just compensating.